Hi, my name is Brian Fox. I recently sat down with all 9 town council and school committee candidates to learn more about them. Questions were developed by myself and members of the Wakefield, Massachusetts Community Page Facebook group and were not reviewed by WCAT, and no candidate was provided a final list of questions ahead of time. For preparation, I reviewed all 9 candidates' voting and town census records back to 2016, looked at posts on local Facebook groups, campaign pages, conducted online searches, and read the Wakefield Daily Item. These interviews were not done at the request of WCAT, and the views expressed are my own as an individual. Lastly, thank you to WCAT for helping with this huge undertaking, and thank you to all the candidates who are running for a volunteer position in our town. So joining me tonight is Amy Leeman. She's one of the candidates for the 3-year school committee seat. So welcome, Amy. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you? Thank you for
I'm
having
great,
me.
thank you. And welcome. I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk. So this is your first time running for a public office, correct?
Correct.
So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Amy Leeman. I grew up in Melrose, right next door, born and raised. I met my husband at a wedding, and he's from Stoneham, and we decided to buy a house in Wakefield in 2007. So we've been in our starter home since 2007. Since then, we've had 2 children. I have 2 girls, one at the Galvin, and she's in 5th grade, and I have a 3rd grader at the Walton. I became active in the community right when my daughter was about 1. When my second one was born, I left my full-time job to be a stay-at-home mom. And I started with the event planning committee, which has changed names to the community partnership. So I met a lot of wonderful people there. And then my daughter was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And with her services, I had to come back and do more stuff with her and my family. So I left that committee. And then I wanted to get involved again. So then I was in the school, and I absolutely loved the WEF calendar. So I went and joined the WEF, which is the Wakefield Educational Foundation. It's a wonderful organization and the nicest committee you'll ever meet. If you're looking to get, if there's anyone out there looking for a volunteer role, I highly suggest WEF. They do a lot for our schools. What else have I done? Then I was on the Learn Anywhere committee, which was a program that the Wakefield Public Schools started when Kim Smith was here. So that I was on the Walton School Committee, and now I'm a volunteer with the Walton Student Council. So I stay pretty active. That's a little bit about myself. I have one sister, a mom who lives in Wakefield. I think she's voting for me.
Guess you'll find out soon enough. Did she at least put a sign up? I mean,
She did put a sign. She did. She lives in a corner lot. She asked for 2, but I've only limited her for 1 right now.
I guess that's a good sign then.
Yeah.
So there are 3 possible school committee term lengths in this election. There's the full 3-year term, which is what you're running for, and then there's the 2 or 1-year partial terms to fulfill seats that were left during the middle of that term. So what made you decide to run for your term, going for the full 3 years?
So when those 2 seats were vacated, it was mid-term. So they actually went out to the public and they said, we have these appointments. If you'd like to apply, you had to get elected by the town council and the 5 remaining candidates on the school committee. And the school committee is something I've always been interested in. I've been an avid follower for probably 5 years. And before that, my friends had kids before me, and we would sit on the phone literally and talk for hours about how a school system works, more so for special education. So I put my name and my resume in to be considered, to be appointed, because I thought that would be a great way for me to see what the time commitment was. Because my kids are somewhat little, or were. I want to see if this was going to balance as far as, Tuesday night commitment. Well, lo and behold, 11 other people put their names in to also be appointed. So needless to say, I didn't get that appointment, and I was upset. And so I said, well, then there was a choice, and you never get a choice. Usually you run for 3 years. And I was like, wow, we have a choice. So that I did think about it, the 1 year. And then when I talked to my husband, he said a 3-year would be a better appointment because the first year you're going to take some time to learn and grow and meet the members on the committee. And if you really want to be part of like a change or policy, it takes a while for that to actually happen. So a 3-year term would be make more sense for me if I really wanted to commit and make some sort of changes, move the district forward. I'm not looking to change anything, but more so just to move the district forward. We have some important things coming up. You know, our superintendent's contract is going to be expired within the 3 years that I'll be on, well, if I get a seat on the committee. So yeah, that's why I finally decided, yeah, 3-year was always going to be my choice if there weren't the 1 and the 2. So I went for it. It seemed to be the smarter choice right now.
It seems to be. There's a lot of candidates going for the school committee this year. I don't remember a time where we had 6 people going for the school committee. And of course, the varying terms is also, I don't remember that happening either. So
in 2018, there were 5 going for 2 seats, right?
that sounds right.
Yep. And that was a really contested race too. Yep.
So what made you, 1, decide to put those papers in to go for the appointed seat, and 2, decide to kind of go for the official election?
So, like I said, I follow the school committee. Sometimes I don't watch it live. I'll be making dinner and play the night before. And one summer I actually went to every meeting. It was like my night out. And I remember a couple people approached my husband and was like, is your wife running for school committee? Because she's at the meetings. And I was like, oh, that's strange. Like, I guess when you go to these meetings, they think it's automatically soon.
There aren't many people that go. So, I mean, that's noticeable.
There was a lot of empty seats. But it was something that interests me. I'm curious by nature. My daughter is on an IEP. So I have to understand like what's a specialist. And when I say specialist, I don't mean gym and art. I mean a psychologist, like speech therapy, occupational therapy. I need to understand when I drop my daughter off, what's going on in that school. When my first grader came home one day and she was like, oh, we have lunch in the hallway. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. You know, why would you have lunch in the hallway? Well, it turns out there was a student running between classrooms. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, why is that happening? And why aren't the resources there to help that student? And it wasn't just one time lunch in the hallway. It was week after week. So I started to ask questions, and then when they rolled out the Learn Anywhere program, okay, that was my like deep dive to understand how can the state at the time allow a district to let like 5-year-olds learn at home on a snow day. They don't have the executive functioning skills to open a laptop, to go online. So I really started learning about student learning time and executive functioning and what elementary kids can do for themselves and what they can't do. It's something that interests me. So, and I think being on a school committee, I would have more access and I would have like the title to be the curious parent instead of being the nosy parent, like, right? And I remember I've met with Jason Lewis twice since in the past couple of years. And now that I'm actually running for school committee, his staff member came to me and asked me for my number. And I was like, oh, this could be a good thing. And I don't know if that answered, was there a 2-part question?
Nope, you're doing fine. That's good. So what is your education field background? I know you're a mother, which is perfect for running for school committee, but.
Yeah. So I have a bachelor's degree in College of Management. My concentration was marketing. And when I got out of school, I actually went to a URI for a year and I did not living away. So I transferred to UMass Boston and I commuted and I bartended full time. So I worked with Marriott Corporation, which is another great corporation if you're looking for a job. They're very customer service and oriented. So then I got a job with Verizon and I worked in customer service. At that time, everyone had landlines. I'm a little old for having young kids. So everyone had landlines and they had them disconnected, and there was a sales piece to it. And then I went over to Boston and I worked for a network planning corporate, like an internal network planning organization for Verizon Telecom. And I was there 15 years. And my job consisted of, at the end, I was the only staff left supporting a organization of 600 people. It was all management, and my job was a budget. I had the capital expense budget. I planned annual raises. We also did layoffs, which was unfortunate. I had to write for promotions. That was another piece. Another piece was after 9/11, we really ramped up as a company our contingency planning, like how would you get all of these people out of a building in case of emergency. And the other big piece that I did was contingency planning for strike. When the union workers, which are the people that are on the telephone poles and answer most of the calls, their contract was out. If they didn't have a contract, they didn't stay in place and work. They would go on strike, and we as management would have to get trained to do their jobs. And I was the one that was on, like, behind the scenes, putting people, getting them training and that sort of thing. So that's my background.
Sounds good. An important aspect of holding local office is participating in local ballot elections and town meeting. What has your local voting record been like over the years, and how is your town meeting attendance?
So I voted since I've lived here. My husband is very active. Believes in due process, and so we vote. Even the local elections and the national, federal, what would you call those?
National, federal, yeah.
Yeah, so those, the presidential elections.
You make the time during the off years to vote for school committee and town
Yes,
council.
I do.
as well
I
as
do.
the presidential.
And more so now, I understand what it's like to run a campaign, and there's a lot of local people spending a lot of time to earn your vote, and I think it's important to go out and show them your support. I do. And we have a great community, and I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of the people who've been on town council and who've been on school committee. So I voted in every election. Now the town meeting is a different story. My husband is on the finance committee, so he attends the meetings. There was 1 year or 2 years he was actually the chair, and he would be the person that jumped up in every question, would say the FinCom recommends this action, or I forget what the wording is.
He's very good at it.
Yeah, but I would be home with our 2 kids, and that's basically why it was more of a childcare issue, why I wasn't at town meeting.
No, which
now the roles might be reversed. If I get a seat on the school committee, he might be home with the children, and I'll be there representing.
Jump up and say the FinCom recommends something if Gerard's not at the meeting.
I haven't seen them not recommend many things. But they do work together. In their defense, I hear my husband on calls, and they are working with all the departments.
It's very good to know.
Yeah.
What do you think the main objective of the Wakefield School Committee is?
Well, by the Massachusetts law guideline, there's 3 responsibilities, and one is the hiring of a superintendent or terminating, like not renewing a contract, and that will come up soon. The other one is to set policies. So you hear, if you watch a school committee meeting, they do talk a lot about, there's a policy subcommittee actually, and the other one is budgets. So they actually negotiate the union contracts, and then the budget. We're actually in budget season right now. Looks like this. These are all my tab things in case you ask any budget questions.
I know you've been doing research in the past couple of days in preparation for this, so.
And you put that on Facebook, and so it's good to have the questions before the test, right? So
But I didn't give you the questions ahead of time. I made sure not
no,
to give
oh
you
God,
official
no,
questions.
I tried.
I know you tried. You're one of the few that came to me, and I said no. It was tempting, but no, I couldn't do it. So you have two children in Wakefield schools now, one at the Galvin and one at the Walton. At some point, they'll be going to the high school.
Yeah,
Are you in favor of building a new high school, and what are your thoughts on that?
I am. I am in favor. I think that it's time, and I know that we've been up twice. The first time we were denied, and the second time we've been approved by the I wrote down these notes. Hold on. I did study this question.
School Building Association.
Yeah, the Massachusetts School, the MSBA, and I didn't want to put MSPCA, but so yeah, it's a worthy investment for the town. There's some science and technology needs that the current school doesn't have. I've heard, I haven't seen, that you actually have to bring an umbrella in the school when it rains. So I feel like there's some structural issues that I wouldn't want to invest to fix. I'd rather have a brand new school. And then there's some ADA compliance issues that if we got a new school, that we would be able to be in compliance with all the ADA guidelines and regulations. And then another piece that we need to look at, if it's approved, is what do we do with all these 1,000 kids when they're building the school? And I have a tiny bit of experience, not experience, but when the Walton school was going through their renovation, both my girls were at that school, and we're all still here, and it worked out fine. So yes, I am in favor of a new high school. And not because my kids, even if I didn't have kids, I think it's a great asset for the town.
As you know, the Wakefield Warrior logo is retired at the last school committee meeting. What are your thoughts on the current debate that's been going on around town? I know you've seen quite a bit of what's going on. And do you think the school committee should have waited until after the non-binding vote on April 27th?
So the logo. So I just want to go on record that hold on a second. I didn't pull papers because of the logo. It was never on my radar until it came up, and I was like, oh, all right. So let's add this to the other things that I'm interested in. So then I had to learn what the logo looked like. And like I said, I grew up in Melrose, and that was the land of the Red Raiders. And when I was in Pop Warner, we cheered for the Apaches. So I watched the student council, I've watched all of the school committee meetings, and then the panel, which was eye-opening. And at the end, I'm for the ballot question too, because I'm a data person, and I was curious. Like, you see on Facebook a lot of comments, and it's a lot of the same people. So I'm like, I wonder how everyone feels. Like, everyone needs to be heard, right? Now, whether that non-binding question would have effect on, like, let's just say it was 90-10 either way, like, should that affect the school committee's decision? I don't know. I think that I support the school committee going forward. We weren't going to sit around for 4 more weeks. That's their jurisdiction. They had every right to move forward, and I support that. I don't know if that answered all your question.
Nope, that is fine. You've done a good
But
job answering that.
I'm still curious to see the outcome, and I hope a lot of people do vote, because voting is important, and I am curious. But I wouldn't put it back. That's one of the questions.
No, but that's something I should have asked other candidates. But I'm glad you said you're not in favor of reversing that decision. So
I couldn't
taking a
see.
stand on that.
Yeah, I think I respect the sitting committee's decision. Yep. And I was thrilled to hear that we could keep Warriors. I thought that was a positive thing. I don't want to be the Wakefield Woodchucks or something.
So as a parent, kids are starting to go back to school. A lot of them haven't been in school for the past year and on a full-time basis. So what would you say to families who may be struggling with the idea of returning to school full-time right now?
I understand. I have 2 kids. I'm apprehensive, but I also think that it's now, I'm sorry, I should say this. There are certain children that have underlying health conditions, and I would never want those parents. I would never push those parents, as it's just to push their kids back in school unless they were comfortable. But I'm apprehensive. You are a little nervous. Like, the class is going to go from 12 to 20 in a small contained area. However, we've been in sports and I feel like the masks are working. I mean, I knew the masks were working because my daughter went to summer school this past summer. So I was all for opening the schools in September. I think it's time. We won't know unless we try. And we can always, if the numbers skyrocket, and I think the Board of Health has done an exceptional job. And I think the Wakefield district, comparatively speaking, because I follow like Linfield and Stoneham and Melrose and Reading and Winchester through this whole thing. Wakefield only shut down right before Christmas, and that was it. I think they've done an incredible job, and I trust the process that they've put in place and the planning. So I'm actually excited for my kids to go back, be with their friends, just creep back to normal.
It's kind of funny that one of the things that almost inspired you to work on the school committee was the Learn Anywhere program.
Oh, that was in my notes.
And
yeah.
then to see it come full circle, instead of maybe 5 snow days a year, to see it being enacted every day.
Oh, yeah.
For about a year. I mean, it must have been.
I wasn't done celebrating that the state took Learn Anywhere away, and then this became like full circle. But you know what? Wakefield was a little more prepared for it because we had a little bit of dabbled in it, and
there was a head start that other communities didn't have.
Yeah. So yeah, it's come a long way, I have to say, from where we were last spring to where we are now. Yep.
And one final note, because we are in a pandemic, how are you able to campaign at this time? I know you mentioned you have signs up, whereas historically you may have had an event at Dockside or Harrington's or something like that. So how are you getting your name out there now?
So a lot of word of mouth, friends putting signs up. I have a Facebook page. If anyone wants to like my Facebook page, or you don't have to like it, you just come in and check in. It's a public page. I don't put a ton up there. I don't really post on the community pages. That's about all I've been doing. I suppose I could, well, oh wait, this right here, this is gonna go viral, right?
This will hopefully get your name out to everybody in town. I know that WCAT has many loyal viewers who will see it, and I know that it's going to get huge numbers on Facebook.
Right. And then the Wakefield Moms group is letting each of the candidates have a 30-minute Facebook Live. So that I'll be doing that. And then today I got an invitation from the Democratic Town Committee for their forum on April 12th. So that's what's been going on. Yeah, we can't really do anything in person, which I go to the hairdresser and I talk up my campaign.
You do what you can these days.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, it was
my
great to talk
mother-in-law
to you.
offered to put one of those big things on her roof, so you might see her driving around.
You should have done that. That's good. There's one person that does it now. I always notice him when he does it. So
he's gonna have competition soon.
Well, it's great to talk to you tonight.
Yeah,
Good
thank you
luck
so much.
on April 27th.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to get your name out there as best as you can. And I'm looking forward to seeing that sign driving around town.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having
You.
me. Thank you,
Bye.
WCAT. Good night.